Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Christina Krishmam. I am the program manager for the Nonprofit Partnership, joined today with Anne Laguzza of the Works Consulting for our weekly HR check-in. We know that a lot of you are appreciating these, coming back week after week. We do appreciate that. You can catch the videos for our prior HR check-ins up at tnpsocal.org and also on the Nonprofit Partnership's YouTube page. So if you missed anything from the prior weeks, you can always catch up that way. I want to thank Anne Laguzza for joining us today, as always, and sharing your expertise and your guidance. We appreciate that. And also thanks to the Josephine S. Gumbiner Foundation for sponsoring these webinars and these check-ins and enabling TNP to make these available to all of you for free. So we do appreciate their support. TNP remains committed to providing the services that you need during this time to build your capacity, to adjust around the pandemic. So we are going to continue to provide webinars. We're slating new ones, and you'll be hearing about those soon. And then also, if anybody is managing of volunteers, we have a volunteer manager check-in or affinity group right after this at 2 o'clock today, so you can join us for that. And we have next week the executive director affinity group, and I'm sure another HR check-in with Anne. So we are just really looking for every way to continue to provide what you need during this time. And if we haven't gotten around to what you need, let us know. You can email us at info@tnpsocal.org and let us know how we can support you throughout this. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to Anne, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am looking forward to these Fridays. When we go back to our regular lives, I will miss them, but it's really great to just reach out to all of you and that you're finding it helpful and that we're having such a great response. So thank you so much. I mentioned that I put all of our social media handles up there. I missed the YouTube one, but for the partnership. But we do appreciate, when you like and you share that we're doing this and you get the word out to other people. I also do usually post these as soon as I get the link from Christina, I share it on my social media as well to keep it out there. So my name's Anne Laguzza. I am the CEO of the Works Consulting. We have, or I have been in human resources and leadership development for 29 years, and I've owned the Works Consulting for 19 years. It's so funny, just today I was reflecting on starting my business because I just think it's such a good time to remember when things are tough. I like to think about when things were tougher and how I made it through those times. So that reminded me today of just how long I've been in business. I work with about 50% of my clients are nonprofit clients. I think sometimes that just by the sake of being in Long Beach, there's a lot of nonprofit clients, and that's actually who gave me a start when I was starting out my consulting practice. Was a nonprofit organization that hired me. So that's very exciting. So today what we decided to do is we're going to do a little bit about managing team performance because we're starting to get some questions. We got some questions last time. I'm getting a lot of questions in my practice from clients because now people are we got over the crisis of, okay, first we have the pandemic, then we had to figure out what are we doing with our teams. And then many of you managed to move them remotely. And then now people are like, well, what do I do now? Like I was in the middle of performance type plans, like improvement plans. I'm having a tough time getting a hold of during the day. I'm asking them to attend meetings and they're not attending meetings. Like, what do I do? So we're going to talk a little bit about performance management. And then it's open for questions at the end. And that is any question you have. It does not have to be related to performance management. If you're still struggling with some of the COVID-19 laws in terms of the emergency paid sick leave and expanded family medical leave, I'm open to that. If you have something else related to HR leadership, I'm open to that. I will tell you in advance, I know nothing about the loans that are out there. So that would need to be another professional. So I can't help you with that. And then I also guess, I just want to remind everyone, because I know these do go out on all social media platforms, is I'm not an attorney. I work with a lot of attorneys. And I try to give you guys the best advice possible, but it's, it's not in absence of advice you should be getting from an attorney. You should also be definitely making sure to check with your legal professionals when appropriate. So let's jump in, and I want to start first with the 3 types of performance levels. So if we start on the bottom left corner there, where it says excuses, 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 that's our low performer. We have mid performers, which are right in the middle, which you can see the chalk drawing, and then we have the no limits high performers on the upper right hand side. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about the high performers in just a minute. The mid performers are where probably a lot of your people fall, and those people are, sometimes outstanding and sometimes struggling. And but for the most part, they perform pretty consistently for you the majority of the time. Your low performers in the excuses section down there are ones that are going to be difficult they're difficult all the time. And by the way, I have to tell you something. Whoever was your low performer before this started is still your low performer now. And whoever was your high performer is probably still your high performer if you're managing them well. But these low performers didn't just pop up because you went to remote work. They or reduced schedules or whatever you have going on. They've always been that way. You may have just been too busy to notice. You may have more time to notice, or it may have been something you were putting off dealing with. But low performers definitely are people that are hard to find during the day. And this applies whether you're remote or in person, I'll be honest. Hard to find during the day. You might walk by their desk and ask somebody where they are, and everyone's like, oh, I'm not sure. Oh, they went to the bathroom. Oh, no, I think they went to lunch. No, I'm not sure. I think they said they were going out for a phone call. In a remote setting, they're going to be the ones who say, oh, I emailed you, you didn't get it, or, oh, I missed your email. Oh, gosh, darn it. I just saw it. They're always just going to be like moments away, or just like feel like whatever you were trying to do to contact them is just out of their grasp. They also tend to be the loudest complainers about things. They're the first ones that are going to tell you what everyone else isn't doing. They're very good at keeping track of what everyone else isn't doing and reporting that to you. And they will also be the loudest to complain about technology and about how hard things are and how they can't get their job done because of technology or various other reasons. The reason they like to complain a lot to you is because it keeps you busy as a leader, and you are less likely to be paying attention to what they're actually doing and not doing if you're running around trying to fix all the problems. So if it's like, oh, my technology isn't working, oh, this isn't working, oh, I called this person, they never called me back, so I haven't been able to get onto the software platform, they're going to keep you busy so that you are not paying attention to them. So your low performers sometimes even get misinterpreted as high performers because of their verbal nature. But if you listen to them, they're not solving problems, they're causing problems. I just did a video the other day on Instagram, and I talked about the fact that underperformers are thriving right now in many ways. So one of my clients said, gosh, oddly enough, Anne, someone that's been a low performer and we've been trying to work with is really helpful right now. And I said, of course they are, because they thrive in chaos. So it's very chaotic right now. Things are unclear, and they do very well in that setting because it's less likely for you to, again, pay attention to their performance, because they will help kind of keep things chaotic and confusing and stir it up for you. Okay, so let's talk about, one thing I want to mention about your high performers, just in case I don't mention it later, is if you don't take, and we're going to talk more about them right now, but if you don't take care of your high performers, they are likely to start to drop their performance level. And so that's very important to pay attention to. And your mid performers can go either way. I mean, they can stay in the middle for sure, but they also can be moved up to high levels. The high performers are also counting on you to manage your low performers and manage your entire team. And your high performers are looking for feedback. Like, they want feedback from you. They want to know what's going on. If you tell them you're going to do a video conference check-in every day, they're going to be right there excited to have that video conference call with you. So here's 8 characteristics of high performers. Number 1 is they put in the work day after day. Like, they will tirelessly work for you. They will do what you ask them to do, and it will be very, very easy to get what you need from them. They learn from others while seeking self-directed opportunities. They're going to try to take as many learning opportunities as they can. If you set up webinars like this, they'll be the ones that kind of jump on. And they're also going to be looking for their own ways to learn, whether that be reading, something, maybe it, even if it's a blog post or a book or whatever, but they're going to be looking for other ways to learn. They seek feedback about their performance. So they're going to be looking to you to tell them how they're doing, especially during this uncertain time. How am I doing? Am I meeting your expectations? What else do you need? They take every project and platform as a platform to grow and learn. Because again, kind of going back to number 2, they like to learn, they like to grow. So this is a challenge for them that they will take on and be excited about. They know their value and demand proper compensation. So your high performers know the value that they're adding to the team, and especially because your high performers know who your low performers are. So if you have any doubt about who your low performers are, just ask your high performers. They will know. And they will be asking you for compensation to be compensated appropriately, right? Maybe not, again, not right now, but this is just overall characterization. But down the road, they may be looking for that. They're highly productive. You're going to see probably almost no difference in the amount of work that they turn out for you in wherever you put them to work. Again, was there any difficulty, obviously, in getting them connected initially? Well, that might be a challenge. But once the challenges are overcome, they're highly productive. They exude passion. They're positive. They're going to be telling you things like, we're going to get through this. It's fine. I'll take care of it. Don't worry. They'll be sort of the cheerleader, almost like pumping you up as a leader. And then they understand their supervisor's decision-making process. They're going to understand right now, you're going to see your high performers. They're going to understand that this is the first for everyone. They're going to give you some room to make mistakes, and they're going to support you if and when mistakes happen and help you turn those around. So it's really important that you're able to identify your high performers, because you need those people. And I want to mention that I anticipate the job market's going to look very different at the end of this. I realize a lot of people are getting laid off right now because companies don't know what their end game is at this point. However, I don't know that all of them are going to get their positions back. So you want to make sure that you're hanging on to your high performers. So if that means that you need to have conversations with them now to say things like, even if you're still a little uncertain, we're uncertain, but I just want to let you know if things work out, you're on the short list for coming back to work for us. You want to hang on to these people at all costs. So let's talk about the smoke screen of performance. So low performers can appear to be high performers. And I mentioned that a little bit. So they will show themselves though. So they have very inconsistent performance. Some low performers have extreme highs and extreme lows. And I've heard, so one of my clients used to say to me all the time, oh gosh, when she's here, she's really good, right? But the thing is, but she's not here all the time. So then you're not really getting a high performer, you're getting an inconsistent performance. So I like to use, because I like food. I happen to really like pizza, even though I don't get to eat it that much anymore. But I like to use pizza as an example. So if you invited me to your house for a potluck and you said, hey, Anne, I'd like you to bring a pizza, which by the way, please invite me after this is all over. I would love to bring you a pizza. Would you anticipate that I would show up with a full pizza? Or would you anticipate I would show up with 1 slice or maybe 3 slices of pizza? You'd anticipate I'd show up with a full pizza, right? You'd think I have 10 people at my potluck, bring a large pepperoni pizza, be fantastic, or whatever your favorite pizza is. And you would expect me to show up with a full pizza. So I'm equating this to sort of the way the low performer is. A high performer is a full pizza. A low performer, you're going to have maybe 3 slices, and it might be the best pizza you've ever had, but you only have 3 slices. That's it. So if you have 10 people to feed, only 3 slices, we got to figure out how to make that go around. So that's what I want you to think about. You deserve the whole pizza. Low performers can be very likable. For some reason, a lot of people think low performers are the ones that nobody likes. And actually, sometimes I've seen the exact opposite. I've seen the people that everyone's raving about often are low performers. So not always low performers, but just sometimes are the low performers. So be aware that they can be very likable people. And then One of the other things I always look for when I do like a human resources audit is when someone says, oh, this person's like the mom or the dad of the office, like something like that, or they're the person we couldn't live without. You know, we don't know what we would do without them. They've been a lifesaver. We would just, oh, the place would fall apart without them. When I hear things like that, I pay very close attention to that person because that person is often a low performer. I hate to tell you, but it's true. They do well in times of chaos, and that's how they sort of get those titles like, oh, we couldn't live without them, everything would fall apart, because they've shown up in times of chaos because they thrive in chaos. But really, if you pay attention to them, they've got a lot of the low performer characteristics, and they're very likable people, by the way. And then of course there's distractions, right? So they throw up sort of smoke screens versus constructive communication. And that's where they're redirecting you every other place where someone isn't doing what they should have been doing. They're out of dress code. They were late. They're on their cell phone. They're texting too much, whatever it is. Instead of being constructive about it and providing solution and help and trying to help you be more productive, either as a team member or as a leader. So really look out for those smoke screens. Okay, and never overlook the power of simplicity, because this is really important here. It's not super complicated. So here's some of the simplicity signals I want you to look for with your high performers. So if you're thinking, gosh, who are my high performers right now? Well, they're not going to miss important meetings. I guarantee you right now in this remote environment, they're there for you, okay? They know exactly what you need from them. If you said to them right now after this phone call or this webinar, I need to have a quick phone call with, they'd be there for you. Their personal drama is not going to overtake the workplace. So low performers have a lot of personal drama. It's not just, oh, hey, my car broke down, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. It's like, oh my goodness, my car broke down, and then the tow truck was late, and then the tow truck broke down, and then the next person was late. It's like so dramatic. Your personal, they are going to have no personal drama, very low. They're going to have issues, because we all do, but it's going to be brought to you in a very professional and simplified way with a request. Perhaps maybe I'm going to request time off, or I'm going to request, you know, I'm going to thank you for being patient for me being late, something like that. They're not going to violate basic policies and procedures. You know, I often say, if you want to know who your low performers are in the workplace, implement any timekeeping system, because they're the loudest people that will complain about the fact that it doesn't work, it won't work, that they've missed all their punches. That's a great way to identify low performers. Any basic policies, if you tell them to clock in and out, they're going to clock in and out. If you tell them they have to take their lunch break, they're going to take their lunch break. If you tell them, you know, this is our tech policy, they're going to follow that. Okay. So you need to tell them what the rules are, and they're going to follow the rules. They might not always like the rules. They might let you know their concerns about what the rules are that are coming up, but they're again going to present it to you in a constructive way that you can manage as a leader and respond back to them. They won't let you down when you need them the most. So let me tell you, your high performers are going to be there, especially right now. They are going to know if you have shared anything with them, but even if you haven't, if they just see what's going on in the world, they are going to be there for you. And they know that you're going to need them right now to be, you know, attentive, to produce quality work, you know, to be doing the best they can to meet obligations, whether it be through grants, whatever it is that you need them to do. They are not going to let you down. So what's different about management in a remote setting? So these people are the same wherever they work. I'm just going to tell you that they're the same wherever they work. So what's different? Well, there's not a lot. I got to be honest. I mean, managing in person is not a lot different from managing remotely. However, you do have to 10x your communication. And that is so important. You're missing out on all of those nuances where you might have caught somebody in the hallway on the way to the restroom, where you grab somebody, you know, you see somebody in the kitchen, you're grabbing some coffee, you have a quick conversation. You can step out of your office or cubicle and, oh, hey, Anne, do you have a minute? So you're missing all those opportunities. So you're going to have to come up with some ways to communicate with them. So I'm going to explain this chart to you. So I coach an executive who was saying to me, gosh, one day runs into the next day, runs into the next day, right? Which a lot of us are suffering from. We don't know what day it is. And they were saying, what's difficult is I don't even know, sometimes I think, oh my goodness, I didn't contact one of my direct reports today, or I didn't talk to that person. I didn't reach out to them. And so I said, you know what, this is what you're going to do. You're going to come up with a very simple chart. And they hung it up on their wall. They use paper because it's just easier, or like a dry erase board is what they're doing. But I think that's easier for them, but you can do it however it's easy. And basically you write your names of your employees, or whoever you need regular contact with. But in this case, it's like direct report employees is what I was going for. The date, and I usually fill those out in advance, or I had the executive fill those out in advance. And then how did I contact them each day? So my rule right now, and what I'm coaching everybody on, is one video conference call every single day. And that doesn't have to be a meeting. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be a meeting, but it doesn't have to be a meeting. It can just be like, hey, how are you? Or, hey, I just wanted to check in really quick and go over this chart that I just put together. So you can do a video conference. I do a video conference with every single one of my team members every single day, and I'm recommending everyone do that. And then there's other ways you're going to connect with them. It may be phone call, it may be email, it may be text or chat, but it's very easy. And why do you keep track? Because people are losing track of time, and they're realizing they're losing that connection with their employees. Why is this a bad thing? Number one, your high performers need connection with you. Now, they will probably be reaching out to you if you don't reach out to them. That's another sign of a high performer. However, over time, they may think you're busy, or maybe you don't care anymore, or you're overwhelmed, and they may start to almost take that no feedback as feedback, that maybe they should be looking for a new job, or maybe things are not going as well. Okay, so your high performers are craving communication, and you want to give that to them. The other reason this is so important is your low performers are counting on the fact that you are busy, you are out of sorts, and you're going to just let them sort of, I always call it like floating off, that they're just going to float away and be able to do whatever they want all day long. I just had a conversation with a client the other day who literally said, I just wanted to see one day how long it would take this person to call me. And they didn't call me all day. And then when I asked them the next day what they had worked on, they had maybe a 20-minute project that was completed. So that's a much more low performer behavior. They'll let a lot more period of time go on before they notify you. And then the only time they'll ever probably contact you is when they want to make sure they get that time with you, that recognition time. So you'll think that they're doing something. So this is very important, and it's a very simple way for you to keep in contact with people. And I highly recommend that you do it. In addition to this, we're going to talk about some other resources. So team meetings, you should still be having team meetings. And if you didn't have them before, please start them now. You want weekly meetings, no more than 40 minutes. So I realize that this is going to ask a lot of you maybe to get time, really good at time management if you weren't before. It's a lot. I love that you guys jump on these webinars. And sometimes I think the only reason I get you for an hour and a half is because we do the Q&A. I wouldn't normally do an hour and a half of just me presenting. That would be a lot of time for you to sit there. So try to keep them to 40 minutes long. And I wrote down later down in the slide, the first 10 minutes I like to use for kind of socializing or check-in. Now that 10 minutes may vary depending on how many people are on your team, but roughly 10 minutes, like, how you doing? Oh, good, checking in. Oh, everybody grabbing their coffee, getting their water, whatever they're doing. Makes it a little nicer, makes a nice way to check in with them, and then start your meeting. Do your meetings by video conference if at all possible. Let all the team members be able to see each other and see you, and make this a non-negotiable. Like, no matter what, you make sure to have these team meetings. Consistency is so important. One of the things that helps people right now who are not used to working remotely is consistency and routine. So for all of us, by the way, so the more you can put routine into your employees' worlds, the better it is for them. And then include one of your team members each week to help present. It doesn't need to always be you if you're the leader of the team. Ask someone else to participate and say, hey, can you do, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to talk about XYZ, or maybe they're going to get more time than that. The tendency will be to let these flow a little bit because, maybe we don't have as hard of deadlines as we normally have, or as many set meetings as we normally do. But I recommend you really try to keep them to 40 minutes. I think you can make them very succinct, very efficient and effective. And you may even be able to send some information out in advance if that will help the team. So probably one of the most important things just to keep remembering is you've got to continue to manage your performance, even in this remote setting. So I have a client, I have multiple clients actually, but one of them comes to mind. They have about 500 employees and they manage remotely all the time. So their employees work all over Southern California and they don't normally come into the main office. They can, but they don't normally because they can work very far. Some of them work a couple of hours away from where the corporate office is. They do everything remote. So they do investigations remote, which I don't necessarily love, but that's what they have to do. They do investigations remotely. They do terminations remotely. They do disciplinary conversations remotely. And the reason is, by the way, their employees work together in each of their areas. So the employees are together, but the corporate office where the HR department is and all that is separate. So you can still do it. And with our capability to video conference, it does help. So at this time, what should you be doing? Well, it may be a good time to reestablish expectations. So if you have an employee that you were working with before this, or maybe now you're seeing their performance drop off, let's sit down and have a expectation conversation. Let's reestablish what our expectations are. And then continue to require your employees to perform. We have gone through a lot, and I understand I am fully appreciative of the fact that we need to be empathetic and we needed to bend rules. And I was talking to a lot of my clients about some of the things that we could do here and there without breaking any laws. But I also think that we need to be aware that this potentially could go on longer than we think. And then we're going to be in a situation where we didn't hold this person accountable. Okay. So there's so many excuses that I've heard, right? So we transitioned to working remotely. So it didn't really seem like a good time to be telling anybody that, reminding them either that they weren't performing before we left the workplace or to bring it up now. Gosh, I feel really bad managing someone's performance during a crisis. There's so much personal trouble that people are going through, and I just feel badly about it. Then there will be the excuse of, well, now we return to normal, whatever that is. And now you have another transition, right? So that'll delay the process a little longer. Then it's going to be like 4 months later, and you're going to have this employee that either was underperforming before you went remote or now underperforming because, sometime during the remote process, it revealed itself. And now we're months down the road, and not months because we're still in isolation. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but just months because it's been such a long process and we've been kind of making excuses as we go. So I just want you to be really aware that it's never a great time to manage performance. No one ever loves talking to someone when they're not doing well. But what I would love the way for you to position it for yourself is to think of it in terms of, if right now, and if we could see each other, I'd ask you to raise your hands, but if right now the person you report to had information that if they told you that information, it would make you a better employee, would you want to know? And I am confident that everybody out there would want to know, because why wouldn't you want to know? Right? So that's why you have to think about this is, I have information that will help this person get better. Now they have to do the work, but I have information. It's going to help them. So I want to communicate it to them. I don't want to hold off for another month or 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. I guarantee you that employees want to achieve goals that you set for them. I don't think people wake up every day and think, oh, wow, really? I hope I can underperform today. I think everyone, low performer, high performer, mid performer, it doesn't matter. I think everyone wants to achieve the goals, but they need guidance in how to do that. And they need you to manage them appropriately. Hold performance communication meetings over video conference, right? That would be my first choice. I just feel like it gives you the best case scenario in what we're working with if you normally are in a face-to-face environment. And I just wanted to mention that the whole adjustment period that everybody went through with transitioning people remote should probably have lasted, maybe about 5 to 7 days. We should probably be outside of that window by now. And everyone should be settling in to like, okay, it's not exactly what it was before, but I get it. This is sort of how it works. This is, where I'm working in my house. This is when I have to get up. This is, you know, things that we've got to do. So I want you to be preparing for the long term here, so that you're not set 4 or 5 months out and you never dealt with this person. There's no documentation. You've never had a conversation, yet you reach your frustration level. Okay. So it's really important just to continue managing performance. Now, I address this kind of specifically with someone who's underperforming, but I want to remind you that your high performers need your attention too. They need to know that they're doing well. They need to know that you still care about them, that you're challenging them in a good way. You know, you're going to give them challenging projects as best as you can, but they need that connection with you also. So here's just kind of a paradox of the performers that I wanted to share with you. A lot of people think it takes much less time to manage a high performer, but it actually takes the same amount of time. It just doesn't feel like it to you, because low performers, they really drain their managers' thinking energy, and they cause a lot of distractions, and it takes up so much time. Your high performers provide you with energy through collaboration. Like, it feels good when you interact with them. Low performers create unease and stress, and then the high performers provide relief, and they don't discount the time required to lead them. Like, they are so appreciative of your time. So it actually takes the same period of time. It's just feels differently to you. So with that, I am opening it up to Q&A. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of information about how to manage your performers, because again, like I mentioned, it's coming up a lot and people are struggling with, how do I do this? And especially with the low performers. I know that seems to be a very big issue that's coming up. So I am open for questions. You can type those in the question and answer box. And it's open, like I said in the beginning, if you weren't here, I'm open for any questions. It doesn't have to be about managing performance. It can be about any of the laws that have come through. And so I have a couple here that I'm going to ask, or I'll ask and then answer. So my first question is, can you require the use of PTO during COVID, even though my handbook says that when the organization is closed, that they have the option of going unpaid? I guess I might need a little more information, but if you're closed right now, the employees have no work available, you cannot require the use of PTO, but you could certainly make it available to them. They have a right to file for unemployment if they choose to. If they are not coming to work, that's another story. Just voluntarily deciding not to come to work, you may be able to require the use of PTO. But yeah, so you would want to definitely give them the option. Okay. Okay, so I guess, so what are the statements is that people should remember that HIPAA rights are still applicable to their employees. So that is true. However, we do have a little bit of leeway now that we've never had before to ask people if they're experiencing symptoms related to COVID, if they call in sick, because then we may have to take other steps. But you are correct. We aren't supposed to be asking people a lot of information about their medical history or their doctors. And we also are not supposed to be sharing that information with other people. There is a very clear procedure if you do have someone that's been exposed on how to notify your workforce. And it doesn't include sharing names with everyone. That never happens. So it's actually in the I think it's in the Department of Labor regulation. It might not be. If anybody has an exposure issue, you can let Christina know and I could tell you how to notify them, but it's really easy. You basically just say that someone's been exposed. Hopefully they're asymptomatic at that point. And if you have to notify anybody, you will do that specifically, directly. The exposures I've had haven't, the two that got notified last time, they got notified like almost 11 days later. So they just decided to self-isolate for the remaining, 3 days, right? But they had no symptoms up till that point. So, What recommendations do you have for managing low performers who have some resentment that they can't work from home? That's a great question. So I think there's a lot of people that are feeling resentful right now if you're an essential service that aren't working from home, especially if working from home looks fun or easy. I know that I mentioned this before, but I know some of my neighbors are having parties almost every single weekend. So where they didn't have all those before. So I just think that you need to first talk to them about, I would just say, tell me what all your concerns are and what are your concerns? And then let's kind of go them one by one. And I understand that you may not want to work, or you may want to work from home and you're feeling frustrated that you can't, but it's just not available to you right now. So I think you just have to talk to them, be very clear, as clear as you can, that it's not available to them, and they may not like it. And you might even say that to them. I mean, sometimes I say to people, I realize you don't like this decision, but sometimes the decisions we make are for the operations and not for, not always likable. And that is, it just kind of is sometimes the situation. I find sometimes just letting them have a vehicle to complain a little bit and sort of talk through it, and then maybe see if you can pick out some of the things that they do bring to the work environment. Because if they're a low performer still working for you, I'm assuming at this point there's still some value there, or hope that they're going to bring some value. So maybe you can talk to them a little bit about that. Do you recommend having feedback communication with employees daily on completed or in progress tasks? That's a great question. I do, but I also know that some of you manage really large teams, and that might be your entire day. But I guess you said recommend having feedback communication. Wait, let me take that back. You're not saying it doesn't have to be a video conference or phone conversation, right? I think that, for a lot of my clients, we've started using like Google Docs or some other shared vehicle. I know my workplace, we use Teams. If you guys have access to Teams through Microsoft, I'm not getting any money from them, but I've really enjoyed it because I can video conference, I can phone call, I can do chatting, I can do everything through that. I can share documents. I love it. But I do think so a lot of my clients, we've set up tools that are, people can be inputting information, or if you have a project management system, so that someone can at a glance, a leader or anybody else could at a glance see what someone's gotten done and what they're working on. So I would say to that, I love regular communication about what's going on. But I want to make sure that it's realistic for the person who has to do it, so it doesn't provide almost like busy work for them, and it's also beneficial for the person who's looking at it. So I love the idea. I think find something that works for you and your team. I also wanted to tell you that I regularly ask my team if they have enough work for the day, and they tell me. So I'm not worried about if they don't have 8 hours of work. What I want to know is if I've given them enough work, and if there's more work to give, I'm going to delegate more, but I'm trying to not over delegate to them right now, because I know that they are getting adjusted. Okay. Do you recommend having feedback communication with employee? Oh, sorry. I just read that question. I guess I could write that I answered it. Sorry about that. Okie dokie. Let's see. This question is, I want to confirm that part-time employees are eligible for EFMLA as long as they meet the requirements for needing childcare. Yes, that is correct. That is for all employees. And then obviously their compensation that you have to pay them is just based off their compensation that they're earning up to the maximums that they presented. That is correct. Okay, let's see. So we want to keep people employed, and they're now home with their children and a spouse who is a first responder and not available to help. They are stressing that they cannot work their usual 20 hours that they did when their kids were in school. How do I handle this? Okay. So I guess I have lots of questions. The first question is, if you are eligible to offer the EFMLA, that might be an option for them to take it right now. Or then we would just reduce their hours. I would ask them what hours they felt like they could get done and reduce their hours, and they could apply for unemployment for the other portion of that. You could, in that case, allow them to take some paid time off if they have it available to offset what they can't work for you. I think there's going to be a balance there, right, on like what you need operationally and what they can provide you. So I feel like it's a conversation that needs to be had in terms of how many hours do they think they realistically can do? And then how do you make that work for them, both compensation wise, so it's operational, and then it's also taking care of the employee. It's a balance. Okay. So I got a question about the additional unemployment benefits. That would be the unemployment department. So I haven't tried to call the EDD yet, but I've actually heard from a few people who've been to webinars that they put on that they've actually been very responsive. I know they are working limited hours, but I would just reach out to them, just pull their brochure, the unemployment brochure. They have a great, I mentioned this before, I know they have a great updated website all about COVID-19. So I say go ahead and call them, and they, oh, when you're talking about federal, but you know what? Our unemployment may be able to direct you on that, or go look, I would say look to federal if you've Googled it already and try to find information on that. I don't think anything's actually been released on that, although I've heard a rumor that it's coming. So I don't know much about that yet. Oh, great. Awesome. Thanks, Richard. Okay, Richard just said he also likes Teams 365. Again, I swear I'm not plugging it, but I just discovered it. I've had it, never used it, but it's just amazing in this time. I will not go back to not using it. I really like it. Okay. Some folks on my team seem like they are in that adjustment phase and still having understandable challenges with mental health and working from home. Absolutely. What is the best way to help folks transition out of this adjustment phase, or should we just let them go at their own pace? So I do think it's important to try to start getting people on track to make sure that you're getting what you need to continue at an appropriate, keep your operations going at an appropriate level. So I don't know if you have an employee assistance program, or if you've talked to your broker about possibly offering something like that. So those are available a lot of times. If you offer healthcare, there probably is a mental health component. I know telehealth is not the greatest thing invented, but it is there and available for people, so they don't have to go in. And I would start talking to those people one-on-one to talk about what are your challenges, that I can support you with. Here's where I'm going, right? Here's where I want to go. I want to get you there. I'm not trying to rush you there, but I want to get you there. So I want to see that we're sort of making some progress in the right direction. So how do I help do that? And then try to work with them in terms of what it is that they need from you that you can provide, because obviously you're an employer, not their therapist. And let's see if we can get them the help that they need to move forward. I also just have to say, make sure that they're not your low performers. Low performers will make it seem much harder to get things going because again, it's chaos, and we're all so, well, the people I'm working with anyway are so kind and trying to be so compassionate during this time that we back up quickly because we don't want to push too much, and we certainly don't want to seem like we don't care. So just pay attention to those things. Okay, we are currently working, this is a long one, I'm gonna read the whole thing. We're currently working on virtual programming and our employees, some of our teaching artists, to help create content and teach remotely. That's fantastic. A manager recently offered work to one of our newest teaching artists, but with the limited amount of hours available, we would prefer to employ one of our longtime high-performing teaching artists. How do I best tell this new teaching artist that although we verbally offered them work, we will not be using them at this time? Oh, I think you just have to have that conversation. And if you can do it by video, I'd prefer that. But I would just say, you know what? I am so sorry. And I don't know if it had to do with moving quickly, but maybe it's, we're moving really quickly. And I apologize that we offered this to you, but it really, looking at the entire scenario, it really is most appropriate for us to offer it to the person who's been with us the longest at this point. And I apologize that this was communicated to you. And that now we're having to pull it back. But I would explain that. I think that there will be understanding, I'm sure, but I'm sure it'll be a little bit hard for them. So I say, be authentic. take responsibility, be accountable for your actions, and it'll go as best as it can in those situations. Okay, prior to COVID-19, we were looking to merge 2 positions into one. Both positions are currently held by low performers, and both positions currently have their hours reduced due to COVID-19. Any suggestions on how to bring in a new person who has already been interviewed prior to COVID-19? This person has a degree, which we feel is what's currently missing. Okay, there are a lot of things here. Let me just make sure I understand it. So so if you were looking to merge them prior to, I don't know if that means those 2 people were going to go away and you were going to bring someone in. But a couple of things come to mind is, I don't know what type of position this is, but a degree, in some ways, the way California looks at it, you'd have to be able to kind of prove why a degree would make this person better. Because a degree can actually be an unintentional way to discriminate against people. So I think that you should message Christina after this, and then I can probably best address it that way. I think it's a little too complicated for me to address here without knowing some more details, but I'm happy to answer, and you can email Christina and then she'll get it to me or contact me directly, either way. Okay, gosh, that's great, you guys. Do we have any other questions that you guys have? Burning issues, anything? I am open. Let's see, I think we've got all these. I'm just doing a double check, and I think we got all those. All right, well,
I just want to chime in really quickly, Anne. I know that there was one question that was submitted via email before all this, and I just wanted to make sure, I forgive me if you had already addressed it. I just wanted to make sure that that was addressed.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's actually a very good point, and I did not. So the question that was asked was about the unemployment, and that a lot of nonprofits, you don't pay an unemployment because whenever your nonprofit was set up, you chose to pay unemployment benefits directly to unemployment. You know, kind of, I always like to say, back in the day, people didn't, I don't even know if people even filed unemployment when they worked for nonprofits, because it was really about the mission 1000%. And I'm not saying people aren't committed to the mission, but they are a business too, as we all know. The best nonprofits sort of survive when they have got some business acumen. So that you will have to pay the unemployment if they file for unemployment. That's just how it works. And I've talked to a couple of different attorneys about it. And that's why a lot of my clients are trying to find ways to keep their employees working, because they feel like, gosh, at least if I can keep them working. One of my clients is doing a very, very interesting training process that they're doing, where they're offering all different kinds of learning opportunities each day. They'd rather pay them and take this time to learn and have meetings and grow than to pay their unemployment, because they're going to have to pay them anyway. So you will have to pay the unemployment. Okay, I think I got another question too. Oh no, I think I did it all. Sorry about that. Oh, I did. You're welcome, Michael. Thank you. Can the 80-hour sick leave and the EFMLA be intermittent? I believe that they can. I don't know that that actually has been spelled out, but I'm utilizing it. I know this. I know that the emergency paid sick leave definitely can, because it's sick, and it's, you know, it can be used if I go to the doctor to get. I feel like I have symptoms and I'm going to seek a diagnosis. I can use it just for that diagnosis. And the EFMLA, I'm treating it just like I would with the FMLA and CIFRA, the regular. So I do let people use it intermittently. I don't know why I wouldn't do that. I feel like that would be reasonable. And especially if somebody maybe has, like, maybe their significant other can watch the kids some days, but not other days, so they can flip flop. I'm certainly going to try to do whatever I can to accommodate them. Great question. Okay, well, with that, oh wait, we got another one. Every time I think we're done, we get one more. Can you claim hardship for the 80 hours of sick in COVID, it's the EFMLA. What is the proof? Okay, so there in the Department of Labor regulations, you can claim exemption only from the EFMLA and from number 5 on the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, which is related to childcare. Those are the only 2 areas you can claim exemption if you're under 50 employees. And the Department of Labor regulations do go over how to do that. So what I'm doing with my clients is we're writing documentation that they're keeping that says why they're exempt. It doesn't go anywhere right now. No one wants it. Just keep it though, because somebody may ask you down the road, or who knows what's going to come out of this. Then send notification out to all your employees that you are exempt and why you're exempt. The reason I say they have to be separate is sometimes the one that you're writing for yourself is a little more not so like pleasant, and it's just more like the facts, right? Just the facts. When you send it out to your employees, obviously I'm making it a little more maybe employee friendly. You don't have to make them separate. They can be the same. The other thing is, if you are considered an essential business, you can be exempt from number 1 on the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, which has to do with the local, federal, state isolation or quarantine order, taking time off for that. So you will want to write down, if you're an essential business, and how you are exempt from that number 1, and send that out to your employees. And then there's the third kind of, I guess, exemption is if you are a healthcare provider and they define what healthcare provider is in the Department of Labor regulations, you can be exempt from both the EPSL and the EFMLA. So if you read those exemption requirements, you feel that you fall under that, again, document it well for your records, and then definitely send out notification to your employees. Someone asked me yesterday if that means they don't have to post the poster. You still have to put up the poster, but you could right next to the poster explain that you're exempt from those qualifications, and then also send that out to all your employees. By the way, all of your employees that are remote, remember that they should have gotten that poster that came out about the EPSL and the EFMLA. So if you need to email it to them, please do so, or email them the link. So they technically should still have access to that. They technically should still have access to all your posters, by the way, but that's a whole nother can of worms. I'm hoping we're going to be able to get back to work sooner before we have to address that. Okay, for low performers, it sounds like daily check-in is the best solution, also addressing any issues in real time. I just want to make sure. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that I think it's great to keep up with your low performers. I mean, I think you should keep up with everybody, but your low performers definitely need those daily check-ins. Just a quick, what do you got on your plate today? And it would be great if you can do that by phone or video conference once a day. Like I said, maybe you start it at the beginning of the day, maybe do it at the end of the day, maybe you have them run you a quick email on what they're working on and you check in sometime midday. But I definitely think you should do those check-ins. And you know what? Every time you delegate responsibility for anybody, you should be checking in regularly to see how it's going. So don't forget about your high performers. They need you. But your low performers are going to need close management for sure. And you have every right to do that. So your low performers will accuse you of micromanagement. They will be the first ones to do it. And don't let that pull your hands back and go, oh gosh, I don't want to be called a micromanager. I would just say, you know what? I appreciate what you're saying. It probably does feel like I'm micromanaging you, and I am closely managing you because I want you to be successful. That's important. And I'm trying to make sure I'm doing everything I can as your supervisor to make sure you're successful. Who can argue with that? Not me. Okay, I think we got everything now. For real, I think we did. So I thank you all so much for your time and attention. And I, again, always appreciate any follows or shares on social media that you can do. It's just really great to get the word out there that we're trying to help people during this time.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anne. And if you do post up anything about this, you can hashtag TNP, hashtag Hey Anne. It's up on her shirt, so we see that. I love it.
I forgot.
No, that's great. I love it. It's perfect tag. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We hope that you found this information useful. Please join us again next week. We'll look to have it again next Friday.
Absolutely.
And we will be sending out the video for this to everyone who did register. If you haven't been getting the direct emails, check your spam folder, check your junk folder, because they are going out as BCC. So sometimes our filters just filter it out a little bit. Look for those, but it is sent out to everybody that registered. Also will be posted up on TNP's website, tnpsocal.org, also on our social media, everything like that. So if you have any questions in the meantime, or if you have questions for the next session, you can email those ahead of time to info@tnpsocal.org. We'll get them over to Anne so she can slot it in for next session. And I really do appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see some of you at our affinity group check-in today for volunteer managers, and as well as our executive director affinity group, which will be next Friday. So looking forward to getting out more information. You'll be hearing from us, trust us. And again, we're all in this together. So stay safe, stay healthy. We look forward to seeing you in person some point when this is all lifted, but definitely online again real soon. Okay. Everybody have a great weekend. Everybody stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.